And we are back. Welcome back into the Pigskin Cafe. My name is Hampton Sipper, and joining me tonight is my good friend, the Red Extraordinaire himself, Chase Haney, and the correspondent at large, Graham Haney. They're joining me tonight to talk a little college football week 3 takeaway and look ahead to week 4. We're going to give our main takeaways for week 3 before previewing Florida versus Tennessee, Arkansas versus Texas A&M, and Notre Dame versus North Carolina. Week 3, as college football usually does, delivered in a big way. App State, Troy, heartbreaking for us, but what an incredible ending to that game. Hail Mary, tip drill, run in the end zone, and pandemonium ensues. What a fantastic win by App State. Troy put up a great effort, and I think a better effort than I think
Yeah.
all three of us really
Yeah.
thought going into the game. So was really impressed with that game. That was a good time. Mississippi State going into the Bayou and the Bayou Bengals handing them their first loss of the year. Really impressive win by LSU to kind of come back in that game, show some resiliency. I was wrong on that game. Don't rub it in, Chase. But very good win by Brian Kelly because we kind of talked about in the last show. If he loses that one, the wheels might come off a little bit, at least for this season, not for the long-term trajectory of the program, but a little distrust and a little fan bickering would have ensued if they lost that one. It's a big win by them. So those were, kind of two quick takeaways I wanted to mention off the top. I want to have more in just a minute, but Graham, I want to start with you. What was your big takeaway from week 3 of college football?
Yeah, I don't think it has to do with any of the games that happened. It was some news that broke after a really rough defeat on Saturday. Arizona State fired head coach Herm Edwards. I mean, a legend in the NFL, and I mean, honestly, did surprisingly well for like being an older, you know, pristine coach going from the NFL to college, and gets canned at Arizona State. Ends up with a 26-20 record and like 17-14 in conference play. So really not terrible. But man, what really was his downfall was everything that was going on behind the scenes. The rumors were that he uh, just didn't want to learn anything about how the college students operated, how all of academics and eligibility worked, and so he was kind of a liability to the athletic department. They were, feel like they had to babysit him, and that's not something you want to do for somebody you pay millions and millions of dollars each year. And then some more rumors were that some of his assistant coaches were
Yeah.
leaking information to help them lose and get him fired. And
Whoa, I
I mean,
didn't hear about that.
Yeah, when I sent you that.
yeah, and
You sent me that they leaked stuff to get him fired?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I do remember that now. But
Yeah.
still, wow.
Line on air.
Yeah.
I do remember that now, I swear. There's a Reddit article for the people out there.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, I feel like we talk about that like in politics, like, oh, there's a leaker in this department or that department. But I don't really feel like college athletics is one where you leak to like get results out of something. I feel like it's one of those things there you put up your best fight, and then if that's not good enough, then they can you. But it seems like Herm Edwards just couldn't get ever get everything rolling. Everything behind the scenes just seemed to be the downfall. So, I mean, just the crazy situation of losing to Eastern Michigan and then losing your job. It was kind of a tough weekend for Herm Edwards. And they said that he flew a commercial out of Tempe. So, I mean, I guess it was pretty bad for somebody that was pretty famous and had a pretty bad weekend. So, Hampton, you
He
want to say
shouldn't have
something?
hit send. No, he shouldn't have hit send. That was his big thing in the NFL with a tweet. Don't hit send. He
Yeah.
shouldn't have hit send.
I know.
Shame
So-
on Herm.
I think,
Chase.
Graham, I'm sorry. I think that just to tack on that real quick, I think he got fired like as he's walking off the field. Like they met him. Hey, just to let you know, that was the last game you're going to coach here. It's like, dang, man. I mean, there's no love lost with some of these. But Hampton, you remember? I actually saw in some of the comments on Reddit. Do you remember? I think it's Brett. How do you say it? Bielema?
McMurray.
No, that was at Arkansas.
Brett
Bielema.
Bielema.
He got fired at halftime, I think. That was
wow.
like the one that one upped getting walked up to as you're walking off the field. and getting fired. I think that he knew at halftime that that was the last, I guess, half that he was going to coach. So, Gurm, I think you about to toss it my way for my takeaways, and I'm gonna do two, which is gonna surprise these guys. I got a second one, but I thought about it as we started here. But hey, the first one I think is a little bit more serious, and the other one's just one to more point out. But the first one, I mean, guys, it's so hard to tell. Is Oregon the best team in the Pac-12? Is it is it USC? But I think we say that seeing this Oregon team come to Atlanta, play UGA and get absolutely waxed. And then what do they do to BYU, who beat, a top 10 opponent in Baylor the week before? They almost, they just absolutely run through this Bo Nix, just like hot and cold, nowhere in between, just shows his head again. And we've kind of said this, though. It's like he has the Heisman moments, and it's almost like a Carson Wentz, just this like he's hot, or man, he can't get
great comp, dude. Great comp.
But the only thing I would say that's not even accurate about that comp is that Carson Wentz will, like, he can shake it off. He can have a Heisman moment and then the dumbest play back to back. With Bo Nix, I mean, it's more per game. Who you getting to show up per game?
It snowballs if he makes a mistake.
And we saw him absolutely ball out. The ending score was 41-20, Oregon winning that game. But I think we also have to put an asterisk behind, hey, in the fourth quarter and some trash time, BYU put up 13. So it was 41-7 for the majority of that game. And I think this just makes it kind of a struggle of like, hey, how good is BYU? But then, hey, is this one of those things that can Oregon kind of shake this off? I think that would really, we thought that they were, so far behind we thought they were going into week one, that I guess the product of week one. But maybe their season is to be redeemed. I just think that game told us a lot, and maybe it just kind of brings us a little bit more back to the center. Can't really, anybody can lose at any point. And I just want to point out two teams that we have consistently for the past, I mean, really as long as I can remember following college football, Kansas and Vanderbilt have been terrible at football.
And Duke.
What's that?
And Duke.
But I specifically think, just knowing one of my friends who played at Kansas, I mean, hey, what an exciting time to be a Kansas fan. And it's not these like, I mean, they're playing, not as of quality opponents, but man, these guys are showing up and they're playing. And I kind of just want to make sure we're giving the respect that they deserve. Of they're kind of moving and grooving. I think that Alabama, I think they'll take care of business. But man, I mean, if you're Vanderbilt and you're Kansas, what an exciting time. Maybe they're starting to figure out a formula that gets some excitement going around teams like that. And I think we need to celebrate when teams who seemingly have no hope and have to develop in order to produce results. They can't just go recruit. They really have to develop. I just want to shout out the Kansas Jayhawks and also the Commanders up at Vandy. So are they the Commanders or what are they? The volunteer Commodores.
Shout out Lionel Richie.
That's right. Hampton, have you told us did you have anything to add to your Troy App State takeaway? What was your takeaway from this past week?
I don't really have much to add to that one other than, like I said, I was very impressed with the effort that Troy put forth. I think John Summerall has them going in the right direction to be able to have the mental toughness and the competitive character to go in to Boone, North Carolina, game day, all the hoopla, and go in there, and they really had that game won. They should have won it. They dropped a pick 2 plays before the Hail Mary. So it was just an unfortunate ending, but I think it still speaks a lot about that Troy team and kind of where they're going. So I was really impressed with that. On the Oregon thing, I think if Oregon, Georgia played now or even like a couple weeks from now, I think it'd be a completely different game because I think Oregon, that first week, they came out shell-shocked. Players, coaches, everybody, because Georgia was just so overwhelming athletically. And now you got to give props to Dan Lanning for kind of turning that ship around, regrouping after that week one. And Bo Nix has arguably had the best 2-game stretch of his career. He's had 5 touchdowns 2 weeks in a row. My hot take of 2022 is still in effect that he's going to have a good year, even though he crushed me week one, him and that Oregon team. But kudos to them for getting the job done. My 2 quick takeaways that I saw that I was kind of alarmed with is the Texas A&M Miami game. I'm worried that no matter how good or how well they recruit, Mario Cristobal is not going to win a national championship in Miami if he does not improve the way that he coaches on the field. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if y'all watched that game, but he coached scared. He coached not only conservative, but he coached scared. He kicked, 6 or 7 field goals? You're not going to walk in to Kyle Field and just kick field goals and win. You got to be aggressive. You got to trust your quarterback, who's supposed to be a first-round pick. You got to run the ball as you were all night. I mean, you had Knighton, who was tearing them up. The offensive line was really winning at the point of attack. What are you laughing at, brother?
Man, Kyle texted me something. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Hey, just so the listeners know. All right, so my brother-in-law was playing fantasy with us, and Kyle said, I just sent Tyler a ridiculous trade. He was going to see if he could make it in the group me, and it made it in the group me, and I'm over here.
That was worth, dude. That was worth interrupting my soliloquy for. Absolutely.
Sorry, golly, I couldn't.
No, it's okay.
I was cracking. All right, I'm good now.
Listen, there's no need to pay to go for a comedy show when you just open up our group me. That gives you laughs all day long. But back to Mario Cristobal in Miami. I just thought he mismanaged that game very poorly. I mean, they were in a position to win. It wasn't like Texas A&M, like we talked about on this show. Max Johnson got inserted. He played all right, but it wasn't like all of a sudden their offense just started clicking. That offensive line is still terrible. Chase is having to collect himself, and Mario Cristobal needs to collect himself and improve his coaching, or they're not going to compete in the ACC and for a national championship. I was very discouraged by what I saw from him on Saturday. And then the other takeaway, Penn State is a competitor in the Big Ten, and Auburn is in worse shape than I thought. Brian Harsin is not long for this job, and this is me taking off my Alabama hat, my crimson-colored glasses. I think he's a little bit in over his head for Penn State to come in there and completely dominate you in every aspect. The offensive line is a mess. Quarterback position, don't have one. Skill positions are rough. I mean, even the running backs for Auburn, Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter, who are really good football players, I think they got outplayed by Penn State's running backs on Saturday. Singleton, number 10, was mighty impressive. I think he had 10 carries for like 130 and a couple of tutties. Very impressed with him and with his lack of recruiting and with the gauntlet of a schedule that he has. I don't think Brian Harsin's long for Auburn. And I hate to say I told you so, but I knew when he got hired it wasn't going to be a great fit. Now, the administration in Auburn has not done him any favors by any means, but I still don't think he's a good fit. I think he's a good football coach, X's and O's wise, but I don't think he was ready for the SEC and a big-time job like Auburn. So those were my two main takeaways from the weekend. Y'all got anything to add before we kind of move on and pick the Week 4 slate?
I would just say that Vanderbilt, we talked about the first pod that I was on. That
sure did.
Expected win total was 2.5, and I said they would get over it by Week 4. And
get over, baby.
We are. So there we go. I did not put money on that because I don't believe in Vanderbilt that much. But, I mean, when was the last time that Alabama played Vanderbilt and Vanderbilt had a winning record?
I can tell you when.
Oh, my gosh.
2017, I believe they were 2-0,
okay.
And Alabama went into Vanderbilt Stadium and spanked them like 59-0.
Yeah.
We actually watched that game together, Chase, at the Grice's tailgate. Shout out John Steven and the Grice family. And that was when Tua did the spin move and threw it to Devontae, and we were all losing our mind. That was that game. That was the last time Alabama played Vandy with a winning record.
Wasn't that also the clip before that game happened? There were some Vanderbilt players
that
were like talking junk, talking about
the
how
D linemen.
Yeah. I mean, that probably set the program back a little bit.
It absolutely
Small progress that it made. But
it absolutely did. But I will have to say credit to Vandy, that staff under Clark Leah, because he's done a really good job establishing a culture. Now they got two quarterbacks who are apparently very good. Mike Wright, I don't know what happened to him against Northern Illinois, but they put that Swan kid in, and he threw for like 200 to 300 yards and 4 tutties himself. So kudos to them. That'll be a fun game. I'm picking Bama. We're not going to preview it on the show. Let's get into the games we are going to preview. And not the best slate this week, but there are 3 really interesting games. Florida coming off of eking it out against South Florida is going to play Tennessee, who is red hot at home. Chase, I'll start with you. Who do you got?
Hey, simply put, I'm actually a believer, and I'm excited for this Tennessee team and their program. I think that it's kind of one of those, hey, when Tennessee is good, the whole sport is better, and they've been exciting to watch. So Hampton doesn't agree with me. They went in. I called them to beat Pittsburgh. I mean, they've
You did.
I mean, they were almost at for a second, almost at like that Vanderbilt level of just could not get really anything going. And I think they made a great coaching hire that I don't know if when he got hired, I don't know if I loved it to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just been steadily proved wrong by them, but they've shown that it's not just like one player or these flashes of greatness. They have a system they're trying to play within, and it is extremely fast. Give me Tennessee. And what more I'm looking for is I want to see if AR-15, I want to see if I think it's crazy that NFL scouts are looking at all his tangibles, but it's like, man, it's another one of those guys that like, can he make the NFL throws? And they struggle with South Florida. So, hey, give me Tennessee, and I want to see Tennessee kind of go a little bit of a run here. I think they beat LSU the next game and then go in that Alabama game. If they go in undefeated, that's a fun game right there. And
that will be the biggest game in Knoxville in 15 years.
Yeah.
That will be a raucous environment. Game day will be there. It'll be wild.
Alabama will continue to bless the UTs of the world and help bring game day there, help, have maximum capacity, tickets sold out. So anyways, that's what I'm looking forward to. So and all that to say, I've got Tennessee winning that game. Looking forward to an undefeated Tennessee, hopefully playing Alabama in Knoxville. Graham, what are you thinking? How do you see this game being a native Tennessean at this point?
Yeah, I'm sure I sound like a broken record because we've talked about Tennessee consistently on the pod, and I mean their offense just so explosive. Hendon Hooker is a legitimate quarterback, and I'm not even going to talk about this year's game. In the press conference this week, Josh Heupel said that Tennessee was ready for redemption. And anytime you're like looking back years past at those kind of games, either you're going to play so awful because that's all you focused on, or you're going to boat race somebody. And man, it was ugly last year. I think Florida won like 38-14. So I mean, it was honestly a blowout. I think Tennessee comes to put on a show. They've been tested, and they've been tested, and they've survived every test so far. Florida, I mean, it seems like they picked their first game and they're going downhill. I think that Tennessee, that offense is just going to be more than Florida can handle. If AR-15 can't make the throws, Chase, like you were talking about, then I think Tennessee could win this one big time. So give me Tennessee and the Volunteers at home for some redemption. How about you, Hampton?
So I'm going to make mine quick. I think Tennessee wins this game. It's at home. Big game for the momentum of their program, like y'all both said. And I've got some real concerns about this Florida team. I like their direction under Billy Napier, but they're going to be missing Ventrell Miller, their linebacker, more than likely. You saw what that did to their defense against South Florida. They rushed for over 250 yards on them. He's that big of a component, that big of a cog in that wheel. And so I'm a little worried about that. I'm worried with their offense. I mean, it has been abysmal since week one, and that is because of AR's inability to throw the ball. What I'm going to be very interested, is if this is the game where maybe Napier's been saving it and kind of reeling it back, where they unleash like AR's legs in a big way, and they almost become like a predicated Gus Malzahn type option, pound the rock, ball control offense, because I think that is their only way to compete and vie for a win in this game, because it's not going to be on the arm of AR unless you give him really easy throws. He's just not there in his development. And I don't think that's going to be enough, even though I really do like their run game and the stable of backs they have. Give me Tennessee at home. And Graham, I'm with you. I think there's potential for this to be a splattering and a big-time win for the Vols. Let's go on to the next game. We have Arkansas and A&M playing at a neutral site. This is always a really good game, really fun game in week 4. Graham, really quickly, I don't think we have to have too much discussion on this one. Who do you got winning?
Yeah, I think we talked about it whenever we broke down the SEC West. I think that Arkansas is too good on the line of scrimmage, and I think they're going to win this one. I think that they're actually underdogs. A&M's favored by 1.5. I'm going to take that.
What?
Yeah, A&M's favored by 1.5. I'm going to take Arkansas. That offensive line, that defensive line, and I mean honestly, just their ability to score is going to be better than Texas A&M's, which sounds like really Booger McFarland, but I mean that comes down to it. A&M struggles to score. I think Arkansas has got good weapons. Chase, what do you think?
Yeah, Graham, I think you're spot on with the pick here. I'll just say this was the game last year. Yeah, spot on. I think this was the game last year. We said, "Oh man, hey, Arkansas has gotten a whole lot better." And hey, if you get A&M out of Kyle Field, I mean that's not a help towards A&M. That's a help towards Arkansas. And let me tell you, there are plenty of people. If you don't know this, there's plenty of people that are from the Dallas area. This is going to be played in Jerry's World, right? Just more context. Hey, there's the thing where if you're a Texas resident, it's really hard to get into some of these Texas schools. So you can go to Arkansas with in-state tuition. There are plenty of people that have houses they can stay at for free. Arkansas is going to pack this place, and hey, they're coming expecting to win. I think some of these A&M people might be coming a little bit shaky, not knowing how it's going to turn out because they went last year and lost, and this year hasn't been what they expected to be. So all that said, give me Arkansas, and hey, I'll even say give me to them by, I'll say 17. What do you think, Hampton?
That insight right there is stuff you only hear on the Pigskin Cafe. I did not know that. Thank you for enlightening our viewers. Local reporter on site at the game. Absolutely good stuff. Chase on that. I'm with y'all. I'm going to make it short and sweet. Arkansas, big time. They're going to be able to run the ball very effectively. KJ's been effective through the air, and that A&M offense is just not up to snuff. Even with getting Evan Stewart back from suspension, I don't think that they're going to be able to go blow for blow with Arkansas, even though I will say, and this is a tease for the Alabama-Arkansas game, Arkansas is the worst rated pass defense in the country.
Ooh.
So if a game is going to get the Texas A&M offense right, it's this one, because they're going to be able to exploit that secondary. There are going to be opportunities to be had. Can they do it? I don't think enough to pull off the win. Apparently, it's not going to be an upset because they're favored. So Arkansas with the win. And finally, Notre Dame versus North Carolina. I'll start here, and then I'll go to y'all. Give me North Carolina, big time. Notre Dame has struggled all year long other than the Ohio State game. Mr. Pine, the quarterback, was getting chewed out by Tommy Reese on the mic. On the headset. It's not going to be good for them. I'm a big fan of Drake May, the North Carolina quarterback, even though he said a pretty dumb comment earlier this week. But he's a really good football player, and I think they're going to blow out the Irish. Love you, Kyle. Sorry. It's just true. Chase, who you got in this one?
I think you're spot on. I think that at the end of the day, North Carolina has the better quarterback. But, hey, I also think – this North Carolina team hadn't really shown me too much that makes me believe in their defense that they can stop anybody. So it might be one of those times it's like, hey, Notre Dame can kind of control the game. That's how if Notre Dame were to win this, they control the game, and that's how that's going to be their approach. But I think North Carolina doesn't have a problem scoring. Give me North Carolina. Graham, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a close one, but I'll go North Carolina too. You talked about North Carolina's defense and how awful it was. I think that's the benefit to Notre Dame and their lackluster offense so far. Maybe they figure some things out and get something going and just get comfortable, Pine at quarterback. But I think that North Carolina, again, it's just too powerful on offense. And Notre Dame's just, I don't really know if there's a star on that defense this year like there was like Kyle Hamilton last year. Like Marcus Freeman, again, think he's doing the right things, just not working out now. So give me Mac Brown and the Fighting Tar Heels in Chapel Hill.
I like it. And with that, that'll do it for our college football week 4 preview show. Guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And if you're new here to the Pigskin Cafe, this is your first time watching, we appreciate you listening to us, and we hope that you stick around for the rest of the year. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, leave us a like, leave us a comment, and hit that notification bell so you will know anytime a new video comes out. Also, we're available on podcast form on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media on Instagram and Twitter at the Pigskin Cafe. And we will be back next week previewing week 5 of college football. We're going to be a third of the way done with college football after this weekend concludes. So the Pigskin Cafe is closed for now. But until next time, chew on that.